So you brought up your cultural background a little bit. You said you were Mexican, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So are there any aspects of what that means to you that you sort of subscribe to? Yeah.
One is that like we are very, very, very family oriented and like we stick together and like we are just like when my family found out that I was moving to New York, they're like, "Where? Like why?" It was just a big deal. And I think I even like read somewhere once like if you're saying no, if you're saying yes to somebody else but you really want to say no, you're saying no to yourself. And then that
Wait. Say that for me one more time and real slow.
wait, I have to remember it. Okay. If you say yes to somebody else, but you really want to say no, you're really saying no to yourself.
But kind of speaking on that, because so you brought up your cultural background a little bit. You said you were Mexican, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So are there any aspects of what that means to you that you sort of subscribe to, or any values that you learned from your family growing up that you're like, yeah, I want to embody that more as I get older?
Yeah. So I'll say two things that really stick out to me with just like the Mexican culture in general and like growing up that way.
Yeah.
One is that like we are very, very, very family oriented and like we stick together and like we are just like when my family found out that I was moving to New York, they're like, "Where? Like why?" It was just a big deal.
Yeah.
So the furthest anybody lives is like an hour from each other. So it's just like
Okay.
we're very like tight knit, very close to one another. Everybody's all in everybody's business.
Mhm.
Also, I would say that I think this stems from like on my mom's side. I think even just from my grandma, like right, like men are just in traditional, like I think Mexican way of thinking, like men should be providers, women should just like love and care for and like I don't know, just be like be caring.
Mhm.
Um and I think like I grew up feeling like my value was like in a man. Like
Mhm.
he like I needed to find a man. I needed to be like he needed to love me and like that was going to be that's what was going to that's like the end all be all. Like that's what my goal is in life. Is to find a man who's going to love me. And so I think like and and maybe I didn't feel that way so much until like maybe the whole separation started happening, and then I felt like I needed to like run to or I didn't realize how much I felt it until I felt like needed to start running to these like relationships that were not good for me.
Mhm.
But I just needed to be with somebody because my parents were going and being with somebody, and I just like I don't know,
Maybe trying to mirror what you saw.
likely.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I think also that just that feeling of like my value lies in somebody else and not just being myself, like has also definitely affected just like my self-esteem and like I guess how much I think I deserve from a person and the types of things I'm willing to put up with.
Yeah.
And like it all trickles down obviously. But
Yeah.
like my mom even makes a funny point now, right? Because she's like not with my dad anymore, and she's not seeing the guy that she was seeing for some time, which was a whole other story. That's her story though.
Mhm.
And she made a point. I lost my train of thought. I lost my train of
Well,
thought.
you were just saying that they clearly were making their own decisions about kind of pursuing their own lives. You
Yeah.
started talking about why you started trying to pursue that, and that you felt like your self-esteem was tied to pursuing a man in that
Right.
way because everybody else
Oh,
was
right,
kind of
right,
doing
right.
their own thing at that point.
Yeah, and I think my mom was saying that, like, even my grandma's asking her now, like, "Oh, like, are you okay?" Like, she's always calling on her to check how she is, and it's like she's like, "I'm, like, a 40-something-year-old woman, like, why is she calling me to make sure I'm okay because I just don't have a man?" Like and then she's like,
Mm.
"I'm sorry if I ever make you feel that way," kinda thing, and, like, I still am, like, trying to unlearn a lot of these things that I think that was impacted by my culture, like, I
Okay.
genuinely do. Um but yeah, but other than that, like, I mean, I love being Mexican. I love the food, but that's like it has nothing to do with all this.
No, but it's still these are all still important aspects, right? And I love that you brought that up.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you, like half my family's Latino, that we're Salvadoran.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
so like I'm very big obviously on the family aspect as well, and coming from a
Yeah.
large family
Yeah.
also. we're typically very much intertwined and engaged with each other. To your
Mhm.
point, um, and I would also agree with you. I think a lot of us are quite traditional in terms of what the gender roles look like.
Mhm.
So I agree with you 100%. You know, men typically are the ones who are out working. Not that women don't work, but they're the
Mhm.
like majority of their income, if not all their income, is for the family at large. Sometimes the extended family on top of that, and the women are typically there to take care of the children that they're usually having, right?
Yep.
um and I do agree with you. I think that that's slightly changing, and I'm very open-minded to those things. I think it's
Mhm.
okay if somebody wants to adhere to those norms, and I think it's also okay for some people that don't. And like, for
Mhm.
example, if somebody says I don't want to have children, I don't think you have to be shamed for not doing that just because majority of your family does.
Right.
um, so it's kind of like, that's why I think the cultural norms and the values, I think that they matter,
Mhm.
because sometimes it's things that we want to subscribe to. But like, yes, I love this, like the family orientedness,
Yeah.
right? Yes, I love that. Give me, give me, give me. I want that. And then brought up food. I agree with you 100%. But then there might be other things where you're like, well, I don't want to feel like I'm less than because I'm a woman, or that's my interpretation, because
Mhm.
I'm a woman compared to being a man.
Mhm.
That I think is a fair challenge. I want to work more. I don't want us to be solely dependent on my partner's income. I want to be able to bring something to the table as well.
Mhm.
I think that's totally okay. So
Mhm.
I usually talk about promoting those discussions between partners when you're trying to, build families, to make sure that you have a similar vision, right? But again, it really depends on what you see. Even if we take a step back, when you were describing your upbringing, right? You said, my dad was going to pursue his own thing, my mom was going to pursue her own thing. And then I started pursuing my own thing. You didn't say this, I was saying this. Perhaps it's because that's what you were seeing around you. So it's like natural that we tend to mirror and imitate what we see because it is being normalized, even if it's not
Mhm.
good.
Mhm.
We tend to do that. So if I see, for example, my father, like me, if I see my father pursuing women and not being serious with any of them, right?
Mhm.
I don't know necessarily how to differentiate that. I'm looking at this person like he's the one that's telling me, based on his actions, what to value. So I may try to, it's not unreasonable to think I'm going to try to imitate and mirror his actions.
Mhm.
So I'm just saying that to you because I don't think that that's wild that you did the same thing, and not, you had no context maybe for why you were doing it or what the possible consequences may have been because you were choosing to do that.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
So
Um,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was just gonna say like something that I even thought of like to add to all that, and I don't mean to just put a bunch of like negatives, but like I also think, and I don't know if this is a cultural thing or just
Mhm.
seeing it and maybe like you said, like modeling after or mirroring things that you saw, but like I think I also grew up in a way that like women should just be like kind all the time
Mhm.
and almost just like people pleasing.
Okay.
And
Heard.
I would say that that's still like a really big issue that I have. And like, even to the point where like it's hard for me to say no. And you can imagine how that is like
Okay.
super like
Oh
detrimental just
yeah,
in so many areas. Um,
absolutely.
so I just wanted to get that out because I feel like that's also important to say.
No, 100%. I actually, I work with a lot of my clients who have difficulty in that area. I just call it appropriate boundary setting. So, and family usually is one of those really hard ones to do because you kind of feel like I'm supposed to. Some of us do. I feel like I'm supposed to be there. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm supposed to check in. I feel like I'm supposed to do this for you because maybe that's what my culture dictates. Maybe that's how my family, the way they raised me, it kind of feels like. Let me give you like a small practical example. I have a man I'm working with right now, and his father passed not too long ago, and he feels like he's supposed to step up in the way that his father did. Is that wild to imagine? No, because he's just trying to do what he believes that he's supposed to do.
Right.
But that can also come with some unforeseen consequences, to exactly your point. I don't have boundaries with any of these people who are my family and my friends because when I feel like they need me, when they say that they need me, I feel like I have to be there. So there's no sense of self care. There's no sense of making sure that I'm fulfilling my emotional needs
Yeah.
before I go to all you guys. And you will not hear me ever echo that because that actually is an unsustainable model. what we talk about on this platform is things that we can try to replicate for a lifetime. We don't
Mhm.
talk about stuff you can do short term because that doesn't mean it can last forever. So you're going to eventually find yourself in a similar position if you
Yeah.
don't find another way to deal with it. So people pleasing, I think it could be a great attribute if I have a boundary to say, I like to take care of folks. I like to be quite selfless. I think that's very admirable. But if I take it like anything to the extreme, I'm becoming the sacrifice because then I'm not taking care of me. I'm living
Right.
for all of you,
Yep.
which is really unfair.
Yep.
I don't know, maybe if you felt said or thought that you felt that way before.
100%. That's like, yeah, that's the best way to put it. And I think I even like read somewhere once, like, if you're saying no, if you're saying yes to somebody else, but you really want to say no, you're saying no to yourself. And then that,
Wait. Say that for me one more time and real slow.
wait, I have to remember it. Okay. If you say yes to somebody else, but you really want to say no, you're really saying no to yourself.